Well, happy Monday to everyone. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal, filling in for Suzanne Leonard. Take a look at this. It's cold, it's chilly, and it's icy underneath all of that snow. That's because we've had this nice thaw over the weekend. At least some parts of the region saw fairly significant thaw. But what it did, and I know this because I almost slipped yesterday in my boots, it's melted this layer of ice, and now we've got this fresh dusting of snow in parts of Ontario, particularly if you live in Muskoka. But obviously you live in the GTA, and that's why you're tuned into the GTA Drive Home Show. No chance of flurries, at least in the immediate GTA region. I could see a light dusting, but the bulk of the snow is going to stay up towards the northwest, and that means snow squall activity. Why? Well, because we've had that thaw once again, so the lakes have broken up a lot of the ice. So we've got plenty of opportunity for rising air over the lakes, convection, lake effect snow. So there we go. Owen Sound up through Orillia, Barrie, all the way down into London, a Snowfall Watch issued by Environment Canada. Yesterday on the radar, we saw quite a bit of snow, kind of like this though, spotty, but it went sort of a westerly direction because our winds were westerly off Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. And I know that because I was in Muskoka visiting my brother, and there was maybe 2 to 5 centimeters generally speaking. But now the winds have shifted more northwesterly, so we are seeing those bands set up in a different direction. And that means, that they're going to move a little bit further inland, and you could see some accumulations if you live in Kitchener or Barrie through Exeter. You could be seeing the most of it. In fact, 10 to 20 centimeters of snow possible. Seems odd that we're talking about lake effects snow so late in the season, but this is how it happens. 2 to 5 down through Windsor and into the GTA. You're looking at a general 2 to 5 centimeters, maybe just a dusting for some. Couple of reasons. We have very cold air in place. As I mentioned, the lakes are not as frozen as maybe they could be this time of year, despite the winter chill that we've seen all season long. We have a trough that'll move through the Great Lakes, so that's going to give a little bit more energy to kick up those squalls. Another trough moves in by Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures, I just want to highlight that we're into the blues and the purples, so very chilly air. We're looking at minus 20s, minus 30s. I've had a chance to speak to Doug Gillum a few times about the long-range forecast into March, and even though I know it's supposed to be very cold, I keep looking at my phone app thinking, has it changed? Hasn't changed. Take a look at this long range. You're into the minus teens most of the week. All right, you're looking at a live shot of the DBP. We see some volume building, but details at the Weather Network. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal, filling in for Suzanne Leonard. And it's, of course, your drive home show. And if you are driving home, make sure you bundle up, because if you didn't notice, it's really dropped since the last 3 or 4 days. We had a brief thaw. I know most of the thaw happened in the overnight. What was it, Thursday into Friday, I believe it was? And that was it. Everybody went, did that really happen? It did. We did lose some snow, but then we're back into this cold pattern. And we're back into the wind chills as well. Let's take a look here. Currently, we're sitting at about minus 7 in Newmarket, minus 5 in downtown Toronto, minus 16 with the wind chill. Hamilton at a minus 5, into the double digits, though, with the wind chills. Orangeville, you're at that minus 20 degree mark. Wow, what a year. All right, Kitchener this evening dropping down to about minus 19, and Barrie at around that minus 20 degree mark. Now, good news is the wind chills are, if you call that moderate, but fairly moderate because of our winds. Not really a big wind story here. We do have winds typically out of the northwest. That's when we get into the lake effect snow. We could see some scattered flurries into the next 24 hours, especially if you live along the shores of Huron. But northwesterly winds at about 20 to 40 generally speaking. So if it was faster wind, well, then we'd be talking about even more severe wind chills, and we're not. Now, into the long-range forecast, it doesn't look much better. We have a long-range chill, in fact, the return of the polar vortex. And how about the return of some busy streets? Obviously, they're fairly dry out there, but Chrissy Van, what is the latest? Well, could you be blanketed in snow here in Ontario? Well, we could see some scattered flurries in the GTA, but if you live along the shores of Huron and up towards the north, you're going to see another round of lake effect snow. We saw some yesterday for your Sunday. We do have a snow squall watch from Orillia into Owen Sound through Kincardine and all the way down through London, and that will keep up at least into the next few days. So a couple of reasons. We had that melt over the last few days, and, well, I guess more like Thursday, Friday, and that happened. What that did is it took the ice that was built up on a lot of the lakes, it melted some of the ice, it broke up some of the ice. So now I think Lake Ontario is only 10% frozen. It was only around 30% as max, but regardless, we have lots of warm water relative to the colder air aloft to get some lake effect machines going again right through your Tuesday. So we're going to see them shift and sort of meander between westerly and northwesterly winds, but you expect that. So that's really the big story. There's not a lot of other weather going on anywhere, really, for that matter. It's pretty quiet. Cold is the story. 10 to 20 centimeters, though, you can see along the shores of Lake Huron and then up through Barrie Barrie, you could be getting into maybe 2 to 5 and a general 2 to 5 down through the south. And you know how lake effect snow works. It can be kind of hit and miss. Some areas might get more than another. For your temperatures tomorrow, chilly, progressively getting colder each day as we get into the week. -6 for Toronto, -8 for Barrie. Same for Owen Sound and Orangeville and Kitchener, but about -7 for Hamilton. Now look at Wednesday. Progressively a little bit colder. -10 for Toronto, -10 for Oakville. To let you know who. And it's so nice to have you along. Happy Monday. I'm Jaclyn. I'm filling in for Suzanne Leonard. And I hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I did. I was actually up in Muskoka and ran into some squalls yesterday, a general 2 to 5 centimeters. We saw westerly flow off Georgian Bay. And now today we're seeing more of a northwesterly flow off Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. So that's where we're getting into some more squalls. Temperatures, they're just downright cold. Let's take a look at some of these current conditions and dropping, I should say, as the days go on this week. -8 Newmarket right now, feeling like -16. It feels like -14 in St. Catherine, base temperature -5. And generally speaking, other than Orangeville, around maybe 6 to 9 on the negative side of things. Into the evening hour, though, we're looking at temperatures dipping down to the minus upper teens and even 20s up through Barrie. So make sure you have the extra layer on the bed tonight. I feel so dried out because my heat, I think, has just been running for 3 months straight. And anyway, let's take a look here. The winds are not really a big story, but I guess we could look at it as a good part of our story because if they were gustier, those wind chills would even be more severe. So very cold pattern. We see what we call a trough or an area of convergence, a little piece of energy that'll move over the lakes. That'll enhance that lift that we need over the Great Lakes. So that means we're going to get some more snow than maybe if that trough hadn't been moving through. So around the shores of Lake Huron, as I mentioned, that's what we could expect. And there you go. Environment Canada has issued a snow squall watch, basically from Exeter, London, all the way up through Barrie and Orillia. And yesterday, the roads along the 400 weren't too bad. Chrissy, how are we doing on the major highways right now? Well, certainly was cold. Nice, partly cloudy conditions, though, today into tomorrow, except we have the snow squalls. So some areas might see a little bit more cloud at times as those flurries are moving through. That's my neck of the woods. I live in Ancaster, and he's reporting in Hamilton. Beautiful shot there. All right, so this is what it's going to look like likely overnight with these flurries through Hamilton, -9, and about a 40% chance of those flurries. Winds are northwesterly. They have shifted slightly from yesterday. Yesterday, I was up in Muskoka, actually spending some time, and generally picked up about 2 to 5 centimeters through Bracebridge and Huntsville. That's because we saw the bands coming in off the lake in a westerly direction, but now they've shifted more northwesterly, so other regions are under the gun for some snow. In fact, some regions could get up to about 20 centimeters. We'll get there shortly. -10 for Oshawa, -11 for Newmarket this evening. Very chilly temperatures through Orangeville and Kitchener, and keep in mind that's before the wind chill. So with these winds at about 20 km, you're into the minus teens, even close to -20 up through central Ontario. We have a little bit of a trough or just sort of a piece of energy, an area of convergence over the lakes. So that's going to enhance that chance of lake effect snow. That's trough number 1. And then by Tuesday morning, another one slides down in sort of a southeast direction. And we'll see more snow flurries again. So here's a look at the Snowfall Watch. As I mentioned, some areas like Exeter up through Kincardine, you could be into 20 centimeters by the time the event is done. A general 2 to 5 for the GTA, and that will be right into tomorrow. So tomorrow morning's commute might be affected by that. Chrissy Van will let us know what her opinion is there. Orillia, Midland, Owen Sound, you're included in that warning. And here we go. Everybody's talking about it's the PV, the polar vortex. It's returned again. Another Arctic high slides down from the extreme north. So that means the prairies, well, we think we have it bad here at -20s. They're into the -30s and -40s. And these are evening temperatures. It's going to be very chilly. All right, a big scare. And what is March shaping up like? Well, it involves that burr word again, too. It's going to be a cold one. Don't expect any above seasonal trends into March. As far as what we see now, it's going to be at least at seasonal or below. So let's hope that our spring and summer will not be as cold as our winter has been. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. I'm filling in for Suzanne Leonard today on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Let's get you into the story. Temperatures extremely chilly. Wind chills now into anywhere from about -12 up to -21 in Orangeville, and that's currently. So into the evening hours, we could see these temperatures even drop a little bit more. Barrie will be down to about -20, -19 in Kitchener and Orangeville. Our forecast is at -17, but you've already surpassed that. So you might be even into the -20 to 25 region tonight. Now, thank goodness the winds are fairly calm, not too bad, around 20 to 30 kilometers an hour to the northwest. I'm not saying it's super pleasant, but if they were really, really strong, well, then we'd have even, chillier wind chills chills as a result. Chillier wind chills. That's a fun words to say there. Exeter, London, up through Owen Sound and into Orillia, you are all under a snow squall watch. It's interesting because the lakes are actually, opening up because we had that slight thaw on the weekend or just before. Well, now Lake Michigan at 30%. Take a look at Lake Ontario, only 9%, and plenty of opportunity over Lake Huron to still have lake effect snow. As I mentioned, the effects on the lakes with the warm temperatures. Of course, Chrissy, the effects of the warm temperatures on the roads aren't all that pleasant. Tell us about the latest on the pothole situation.
Well, it is a nasty drive out there, Jaclyn. If you've been...
I know it wasn't very long-lived, but it did melt a whole lot of snow in some areas, and what it did is it created that slick layer of ice, and now we're looking at some flurries on top of that ice. But you did see a partly cloudy sky in that video. You're going to see that partly cloudy sky out your window again tomorrow. In fact, we have some snow squalls in the forecast, but that's about it. It's pretty calm, pretty quiet. Winds are northwesterly at around 20 to 40 kilometers an hour. And there's a look at the snow squall watch that Environment Canada has issued right from Orillia down into around the London region. Some areas in around Exeter up through Kincardine, you could be getting up to 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. But on the radar, it looks pretty spotty. They don't look as organized the bands as what they do, say, a few months back. I think that's because, as my guess, a lot of the ice is sort of choppy, and I think that the cells, that we get off the lakes aren't quite as organized as they could be when the lakes are wide open. However, you still do get into some snow flurries, and yesterday it was a westerly component to those winds, and some areas picked up about 2 to 5 centimeters through central Ontario. There is a look at how much snow you can expect. So through Barrie, Midland, Penetang, Machine, all that area, 5 to 10, all the way down the shores of Georgian Bay and Huron. And then the white is indicating 10 to 20 centimeters, a general 2 to 5 for much of the GTA. All right, now the temperature story, because that's really, I guess, our active weather story today, because it is frigid. Overnight, look at this, into the minus 15s, minus 20s in some regions, I should say. Orangeville already this afternoon has dipped down to around that minus 20 degree mark. Another trough moves through, and that's just a little bit of energy in our atmosphere that's going to enhance that lake effect snow. So that's why some areas could get up to 10 to 20 centimeters, a little bit extra lift. Winds will shift around westerly once again on Wednesday, and get ready for the polar plunge because it goes right into the long range forecast. Of course, this is just the final days of February, short month. So, we're only, 4 or 5 days out, and then into March, it really doesn't change. We have a few partly cloudy icons in there. We do have a few flurries, but temperatures are cold. Minus teens is the overnight lows, and wind chills as well.
Than just a forecast. More insight, more expertise, more in-depth analysis. Stay tuned weekdays after 2 p.m. for The Science Behind the Weather and get more.
Snow squall activity, more snow in general. Into the long-range forecast, if we have a storm, it's certainly going to fall as snow because we have a very cold pattern setting up for not only the end of February, but right into March. I know, I'm the bearer of bad news. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal filling in for Suzanne Leonard today, and I hope you had a great weekend. Let's get you into the story. Orangeville, feeling like minus 21 right now. That's chilly. Minus 18 is what it feels like in Kitchener. A little bit better in Hamilton at a base temperature of about minus 5. Feeling like minus 12, and it's going to be a cold one down into this evening. Wind chills even colder yet, so into the upper minus teens. You can see for Toronto and Newmarket and up through Barrie, minus 20. So bundle up. It's a good thing, though, that these winds aren't even more strong than they are. They're about 20 to 30 kilometers an hour, predominantly out of the northwest. Whenever we have that northerly component to winds, we know that it's usually chillier. But the good news is that most of the gusty activity will be on the lakes. And because I say it's good news, because it's not going to drop our temperatures even colder than what they already are. London up through Owen Sound and Orillia, Barrie, all under a snow squall watch. Take a look at this. The lakes. We've been watching this quite closely over about the last month or so. Lake Erie was pretty well frozen over. Now at 83%. You can thank the thaw for that. Minus 9% coverage on Lake Ontario. So if you look up towards the north, about 70%. Lots of opportunity for lake effect snow still up there. All right, Chrissy, we know what it does to the lakes when we get a thaw, but what does it do to the roads?
Well,
I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. It's nice to have you along. You are going to need to bundle up into the long-range forecast. In fact, you'll need to bundle up immediately because the wind chills are in around that minus 15 to minus 18 up through Barrie currently. Minus 10 in Barrie as a base temperature and a -9 for Kitchener. We're looking at snow squalls as being part of our story as well into the next 24 hours. Most of the squalls that we've seen over the last 24 hours have been north up through central Ontario, but now we could see some in the GTA as well. So -9 for Toronto this evening, going down to about -17. St. Catharines, similar temperature. And let's take a look at your winds, anywhere from about 20 to 30 k out of the northwest. As I mentioned yesterday, they were more westerly. Winds aren't really a big part of our story today, but that's a good thing, because if they were, we'd be much colder than where we're actually at. So a big plunge of Arctic air, and now we've actually seen the Snowfall Watch advisories, I guess I should say, issued today because of the cold air aloft moving over those relatively warm waters. It feels like we've been saying that for 3 or 4 months. Well, that's because we have. We've been talking about snow squalls since November. Mount Forest, Barrie, Orillia, all looking to gain some significant snowfall in some areas. Some areas around Exeter up through Kincardine could get up to 20 centimeters of snow. So make sure the snow blowers are primed and ready to go. All right, 9% frozen Lake Ontario is. So that means lots of lake effect potential off Ontario. The other's a little bit more frozen. All right, Kirsty, we'll send it over to you now with a look at the roads. We're coming off a weekend. It feels like it's weekend road conditions out there.
For sure, Jaclyn. It's been
Earlier today, you see people slipping and sliding. That's because of that layer of ice now we have underneath the snow flurries because of the melt. Yeah, and how long is that going to last? Well, it's not going to melt anytime soon, I can tell you that. We're in a cold pattern. Let's take a look at Hamilton earlier today. Beautiful sunshine, a lot of clear sky, and yet to be bundled up. People are bundled up out on the street. That's my neck of the woods. I live in Ancaster, Ontario, and yeah, it's not going to be, there's no relief in the long-range forecast. That's just basically the gist of it. And I'm the bearer of bad news, I'm afraid. I'm Jaclyn Whittal, by the way. I'm filling in for Suzanne Leonard today. All right, let's take a look here. Orillia, Midland, Owen Sound, Kincardine, all the way down to London. You're under a snow squall watch. We could be getting up to maybe 10 to 20 centimeters in some areas, but here's a look at the radar right now. We see that up through central Ontario, the bands are sort of diminishing, but they're picking up through Kincardine and down through Exeter. So that's where we expect the bulk of the snow to really leave its mark. Take a look at this. Northwest winds yesterday were westerly. We saw them moving through Midland, Parry Sound, up through central Ontario, including Barrie. Today, it's going to be more of a northwesterly direction. That's why up the shores of Huron, they could see, well, look at this, 10 to 20 centimeters of snow in the darker blue. That's 5 to 10. And a general 2 to 5 that could make their way all the way into the GTA. Let's talk about the GTA temperatures. We have a bit of a trough moving through, but what this map is actually showing is this pink, and that's temperatures into the minus upper teens. And we get into the wind chill, we could be into that minus 20 degree mark. But thank goodness our winds are not even stronger than they are. We'd be even colder than what we are. Let's take a look at the long range forecast. Base temperatures, -6 for Tuesday. It progressively gets colder, or at least more prolonged kind of cold. You can see Wednesday, Thursday, -10, -8. The wind chills probably at their worst on Wednesday, feeling like -19, and the overnight lows, Friday's probably the worst, feeling like about -12, but the overnight low, -20. Now we have some snow flurries in the forecast for Saturday. We are keeping an eye on that system. And then back into the sunshine by Sunday, Monday, but very chilly temperatures. There's a 7-day forecast with no relief. Will the West Coast get relief? Yeah, the old one. We'll have the latest on that. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal, filling in for Suzanne Leonard on this Monday. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I did. You had a little bit of a break from the cold weather, at least at the beginning of the weekend. I know it was short-lived. It happened, I think, Thursday night over to Friday, and by the time Friday rolled around, we were descending in terms of our temperatures, and that's the trend into our long range, a constant descent in terms of temperatures. Look at this, currently -16 through Toronto, base temperature -7, so the blue are the wind chills. Brantford -8, but feeling like -15, and Orangeville feeling like -20 already. So we have a forecast for Orangeville this evening at -17, but wouldn't be shocked if they actually get below that, because they're already at -20 with the wind chill now. All right, let's take a look at the winds. Thank goodness they're not stronger, because we'd be dealing with even more severe wind chills. We have a trough that'll move through. That means we're going to have a little bit more energy to kick up the lake effect machine. So we are looking at lake effect snow squall Watch is in effect right now from Environment Canada from Midland, Orillia through Owen Sound all the way down into London. Some areas actually could be getting up to about 10 to 20 centimeters up through Kincardine. A general 2 to 5 centimeters for the GTA, and that's enough to certainly mess up the roads, possibly tomorrow morning's commute. It's going to be kind of on and off, scattered, and the lakes are open enough. Look at this, 73% now. That's down by almost about 10% from last week. So, Chrissy, no matter what, if we're getting into some snow squalls, that means trouble on the roads likely.
Absolutely.
All great advice. Thanks for that, Arda. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Let's take a look here at the snow on the ground through southern Ontario. I think we all know there's plenty of it. But, a lot of people lost quite a bit with the melt that happened on last Thursday, Friday. Still plenty of snow up through central Ontario, through Collingwood and into Grey County. 30-plus centimeters and about 15 to 30 from London up through Kitchener. Guess what? There's more in the forecast. We do have snow squall watches in place from Environment Canada from Orillia all the way down through London, Kincardine, Mount Forest included in that. We could be getting up to 10 to 20 centimeters in that white area there, that white bullseye. And then you see the blue, that's 5 to 10 centimeters. Generally about 2 to 5 centimeters for the rest of the areas. Maybe the GTA may just get a little bit of a dusting, so not a big story. Where the big story comes into play here is the temperature story. Tuesday, daytime highs, -6 for Toronto, -10 for Barrie, same for Owen Sound, but keep in mind these are all temperatures before the wind chill. And then we progressively get a little bit colder every day of the week. So there's your Wednesday forecast. Cobourg at about -10, much of the same for the rest of eastern Ontario. In the Niagara region, we're looking at -10s, and the long-range forecast doesn't look so much better. It's going to be a chilly one. Well, certain people are bundled up out on the street. That's my neck of the woods. I live in Ancaster, Ontario, and yeah, it's not going to be, there's no relief in the long-range forecast. That's just basically the gist of it. And I'm the bearer of bad news, I'm afraid. I'm Jaclyn Whittal, by the way, filling in for Suzanne Leonard today. All right, let's take a look here. Orillia, Midland, Owen Sound, Kincardine, all the way down to London. You're under a snow squall watch. We could be getting up to maybe 10 to 20 centimeters in some areas, but here's a look at the radar right now. We see that up through central Ontario, the bands are sort of diminishing, but they're picking up through Kincardine and down through Exeter. So that's where we expect the bulk of the snow to really leave its mark. Take a look at this. Northwest winds yesterday were westerly. We saw them moving through Midland, Parry Sound, up through central Ontario, including Barrie. Today, it's going to be more of a northwesterly direction. That's why up the shores of Huron, they could see, well, look at this, 10 to 20 centimeters of snow in the darker blue. That's 5 to 10. And a general 2 to 5 that could make their way all the way into the GTA. Let's talk about the GTA temperatures. We have a bit of a trough moving through, but what this map is actually showing is this pink, and that's temperatures into the minus upper teens. And we get into the wind chill, we could be into that -20 degree mark. But thank goodness our winds are not even stronger than they are. We'd be even colder than what we are. Let's take a look at the long-range forecast. Base temperatures, -6 for Tuesday. It progressively gets colder, or at least more prolonged kind of cold. You can see Wednesday, Thursday, -10, -8. The wind chills probably at their worst on Wednesday, feeling like -19, and the overnight lows, Friday's probably the worst, feeling like about -12, but the overnight low, -20. Now we have some snow flurries in the forecast for Saturday. We are keeping an eye on that system. And then back into the sunshine by Sunday, Monday, but very chilly temperatures. There's a 7-day forecast with no relief. Will the West Coast get relief? Yeah, they're not looking very nice either. In terms of temperatures, we're going to stay on the very cold side of the jet stream pattern. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal, also known as the bearer of bad news, I'm sure, but just the messenger. All right, let's take a look here at the temperature forecast map. You can see that dark pinkish purple color, especially the dark purple, that's indicating -30. So the daytime highs in the prairies, very chilly, right into the east as well. While the western parts of the country still chilly, but certainly a lot warmer than the east. But you can see it doesn't go anywhere. In fact, it starts to slide down even further south by the time we get into the end of the week, and then another Arctic high moves in. Now, these are areas of high pressure that are little pieces of energy off the polar vortex. That's the best way to think about it. So it's a little chunks of that polar vortex coming down. So the Arctic high, it's really doing its job. -12 for Toronto overnight. Hamilton, you're looking at a degree colder with a few snow flurries. That's because of some lake effect snow. We had a chance to speak to people in Hamilton about whether or not they like snow or the cold better. Have a look. You don't have to shovel cold. That's true. I myself, I take the snow because I'm not really liking these very chilly temperatures. You can get outside and do much more in the snow. If you like snow, you'll be happy to know that Snowfall Watches are in place from Midland, Aurelia, Barrie, all the way down into London, along the shores of Huron and up through Georgian Bay. And quite a bit of snow expected for some regions, 10 to 20 centimeters in the white area along the shores of Huron up through Kincardine. The darker blue, 5 to 10 centimeters possible. That means for Midland and Penetang. And then closer to the GTA, including Kitchener and up through Orangeville, you could see about 5 to 10. The GTA, though, more like 2 to 5, or maybe even just a dusting for some areas. All right, look at this. Tuesday, -6. Doesn't look too bad until you factor in the wind chill. Then you're into the minus teens. -7 for Hamilton, partly cloudy for your Tuesday. All right, this is an abundance of snow in Burnaby.